Anyhow, just to touch on culture and how it impacts your business. Really, it's your employees understand the dynamics of your organization. You get common purpose between all the colleagues are all working together, and they're more likely to adapt your best practices, share ideas, they communicate. You get better feedback and concerns come up earlier. And let's think about, a strong culture can have a huge effect externally, like your brand recognition, your brand perception. Think about the early days when every kid coming out of college wanted to work for Google, and because of the culture they had there of, pre-COVID, obviously, but more open, more, flexible hours, greater, engagement with their employees and high retention rates. Why is it important? Well, everybody knows that, if it's a great place to go to work and you've got a great culture, employees are going to stick around, and it attracts good talent. And the people that are there are engaged. They want to be there. They want to participate. It's a huge impact on how happy they are and satisfied in their job, and which is the bottom line leads to great performance. Personality of your business is influenced by everything: leadership, management, workplace practices, policies, people, and more. Everything else is a huge impact throughout the company is on your culture. What does success look like? Like I said, employee retention and referrals, and bringing new people in, but most of all, retention. So, Kathy, you go to the next slide. There we go. So when we look at this by judges, and we do this in every category for the Spark Awards, we use the ADLI approach. So approach, deployment, learning, and integration. So just real quick on that, this is what the judges are going to look for. Our approach, real simple. How does a company come up with your ideas? How do you tackle this, culture? What are we going to do to make this better? Deployment, obviously, how do we roll this out once we've come up with these ideas of improvements that we're going to make? And then learning, when we rolled it out, nobody gets it perfect the first time. So what did we learn from it? What adjustments are we going to make? And then integration, how do we roll that back in and retool or readjust based off of what we learned from what we rolled out? And, this isn't just for culture. This can be used in every aspect of your business: operations, safety, social engagement, all that you can use this approach. It sort of reminds me of Kaizen approach for continuous improvement. So let's now jump into each one of these categories. And this is the part I like the best, is because this is where I get to call out some of the previous Spark Awards participants that had done very well or were finalists or winners in each one of these categories or for culture. And let's hear a little bit about, how they scored and what they do in their organizations for kind of how they scored real well. So approach, you're proactive, not reactive. Your mission, vision, and value is very clear. You have a clear purpose, and your employee engagement is really high. If I jump in here, let's see, just for fun, Krista Holland, last year you weren't in the Spark Awards, but the year before you guys were one of the finalists and participated in the judging session. If I look at some of the things that you talked about before, you talked about your learning management system and how that provides access, your webinars that you do, and you did a rebrand on your culture. Could you touch on each one of those a little bit and explain how your learning management system benefits your organization and how you use it to implement, additional learning and everything else?
Yeah, so we have a fairly new learning management system. It's called Absorb. And we've been really kind of heavily promoting that to our employees as a way to learn about a lot of different areas. We put all of our safety training in there, so people can go in there to view monthly safety training topics. We have also worked with our training team and our marketing team to create lots of product specific training about our different product lines so that people can go and refresh themselves on what our products are. Maybe if they're new to the company, they can get kind of a primer on what we do and why we do it, those types of things. So that's been a successful project. And then, yeah, we rebranded our values. We had our former CEO had retired and the next in line took over. And we thought that that would be a good time to do a refresh on our vision, our values, our culture, because we had been operating under the same set of values since 2006. So we ended up calling it a refresh because they didn't change dramatically, which I think is good. It shows that we had a good solid culture already, but we did tweak them a little bit to kind of make them a little bit more aspirational and focusing a little bit more on some of the areas maybe where we were a little bit weak in our culture. And then we used a network, we called them culture ambassadors. So we're in like 10 different countries. And then we have two different locations here in the US. So at each location, we had a team of culture ambassadors. So just kind of a broad swath of employees at all kinds of different levels, all kinds of different functions that were ambassadors for the culture and made sure that people understood what these, updated values were, how they apply in daily life. And that team, we formed that team in 2021, maybe. And they're still going on and still continuing to work on making sure that people are aware of our values and then creating events where we can live the culture.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, when you decided to do that, where did you pull the people from that participated in this refresh of the cultural values?
So the actual refresh process started with our executive team and our senior leadership team, and they worked with some consultants to talk about what was working and what wasn't.
So you brought in outside help with that?
We did, yeah. We brought in a facilitator from the outside to kind of help us through that process. And then they conducted focus groups and listening sessions with each location to hear what the employees liked about the culture, what the employees wanted to see change, things like that. So lots of listening on the front end. And then the executive team worked back with the consultants to kind of tweak and refresh the values. Then when it came time to choose those culture ambassadors of who was going to be out there promoting it, it was a combination of some nominations from leaders in each of those countries about who do they see that's engaged and has relationships and is an influencer within their location. But we also just promoted this at town hall meetings that we were going to be forming this team. And if this was something that interested you, we welcomed you to volunteer. So we got a mix of people that were volunteers and people that were nominated.
So with this outside consultant, you basically collected feedback from all levels of the organization, from senior leadership team all the way through frontline employees.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. That's good practice. So next, another one that is consistently a high placer in this, and Jerry and Marcia, I'm going to call you guys out. I know that you guys have done a lot of getting out of your cultural comfort zone, if you will. You've got a great employee referral program, and you use Kaizen events to address issues raised by the employees. Can you touch a little bit on that, on how you use that or how that has helped you get feedback from employees and integrate that into what you do? Marcia or Jerry, either one I'll take, or both.
Marcia, I just let Marcia back in, so I think she might have had a
well, Jerry's here.
Okay, I'll start.
Yeah.
I was on one of the other culture things not after Krista, but with Krista, and it's a little overwhelming. It's hard to go after their company. But we're a much different size company than they are. So yeah, we use Kaizen events. What we use the communication meetings that we have quarterly that Marcia conducts, and we do surveys at each of those meetings. And then we use Kaizen events throughout our operations just to address whether it be a small housekeeping issue that can be taken care of in a day, or a larger process or systemic issue that, you know, we might need more focused time on. So we have a lean steering committee that goes through each of the responses from the employees. They get back to the employees, and then we develop those Kaizen events to address what the employee issues are. And yeah, the Kaizen events are just where, you know, they're taken out of actual production for the day or the week or whatever it might be, to address that specific issue during that particular time, so that it's taken care of once that Kaizen is done.
Okay, now something was mentioned, is a note that caught my eye, and it was getting out of your cultural comfort zone in last year's judging session. And I'm not sure what that meant, but it caught my attention, and I don't know what it refers to, but you know what that was about, or I don't know if it's about diversity, equity, inclusion, or if it's about some of the things you guys have done as along the lines of your culture, or is that just an obscure note that I shouldn't have really paid attention to? I'm not sure.
I don't know that specific note offhand.
I know what it might
know?
I might be related to, because Jerry, you made a comment to me about it afterward, but it may be related to that we had a transgender intern, and it was new for us and how to handle it, and how we had some people calling that person the wrong pronoun, and just how to go about it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it was. And we made him feel very comfortable, and he was happy. But for us, it was just new, and we probably struggled with it a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's something that's going to happen more and more. And, you know, if you've got an accepting culture with open ideas, it's going to be easier for everybody. So that's good. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, you two. I appreciate it. Sarah, from Bales, Miss Morrison. What is this weekly L10 meeting that I saw in your notes?
Yes, we adopted the EOS system, which is the entrepreneurial operations system. It's with a facilitator so he, much like Krista, he facilitated us doing our values and all of that, and setting our goals and 10-year picture. And so the L10s are a part of that system, and it's a weekly meeting held by various teams on the organizational chart. And obviously it starts Tuesday at the top and then filters down the week, so that you can exchange issues and information and feedback and updates really easily. So they're all very structured. There's an agenda that's the same every week. Everyone has access. It's on a software platform that everyone has access to. So they can pop in all of their numbers and all of their known issues and any headlines they have to go through. And then it's just a really well-organized tool to keep us pretty much on track on a weekly basis. It eliminates a lot of side meetings, and it just compounds it all in one sitting standard meeting. So we found it very useful. We've only been at it for about a year, maybe a year and a half. Yeah. So it's been going well.
So obviously you've gotten good results from that, and it's helped out within the organization for communication purposes, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was a hard sell at first. It seems a lot to meet every single week, but it really does start to eliminate all of the side meetings. You know, everyone rolls their eyes like, oh, more meetings. Once it got rolling for a little while, it really eliminated, I don't know how many hours a week, but quite a bit of all of the side meetings and ancillary meetings. So it's a good thing.
Okay. Wonderful. So Ashley, when it comes to approach, I know you're the phenomenal on good, better, and best. So can you touch a little bit on that? And I know we always say what can't be measured can't be improved, but from an approach standpoint to culture, what are your thoughts on good, better, and best, Ash?
So from the examples that I heard, those are all from good to great and great to excellent. They're all excellent. And it is going to vary based upon company size, your internal availability and capability in regard to skill set to really bolster that company culture. Just an example that I think about assisting a company about 2 years ago. So the first thing is having components of your company culture of what people truly live out. So we're going to get into having a mission statement, focusing in on your purpose instead of values. And it was mentioned of simply refreshing them every so often. So it doesn't have to be common values. It could be values that fit your company culture. So something to me, that's something good to do. Taking it a step further, which all of these examples incorporated, was gaining feedback from various people within an organization. So there was some informal forms of feedback that I heard, and also formal. A company that I worked with, they took a formal approach with wanting to learn about engagement. So they took part in an employee engagement survey itself, and then they conducted focus groups from a qualitative perspective. And there were cultural questions that directly impacted company culture. So based upon that, kind of, Krista, what you shared, they created different committees, I guess you can say, they focused in on 3 areas. That's what they thought that they can handle. One of them was culture. There was another one that related, I guess, indirectly, would be the education, so training component, and then also recognition, any form of recognition, positive as well as constructive. So that, to me, I mean, that went above and beyond for that size company, and they worked through it over the course of numerous years.
Thanks, Ash. I always appreciate your insight. It's always great. Thank you. So if we jump into the next slide, Kath, on deployment, how do we take those things that we thought of in our approach, our ideas that we've worked so hard to come up with, that we've brought in outside resources to help us do this correctly? So this is going to take an active influence in your strategic planning. You want a teams-based approach. You want everybody all in on this, and from every department. So some of the standouts. Now I'm going to continuously pick on Aurora, Flexico, and Bales. But if anybody else would like to jump in on this, I'd be more than happy to take your opinions. Right now, I've got Jerry and Marcia. I'm going to call you out again and ask you to talk a little bit about your use of SMART goals across the company and your quarterly communication meetings. If you could just touch on that a little bit, Jerry or Marcia, if you care to elaborate on your SMART goals or your quarterly.
Jerry, you want to talk about the goals, and I can talk about the meeting?
Sure.
Perfect.
So yes, we're actually just starting our SMART goals for this year, because our fiscal year starts November 1st. Every non-production employee will develop their SMART goals, and within those SMART goals, there's also personal goals and professional development and discussions about, where do you want to go within the company, so that it's not just what the manager has indicated that person should get done for the year. So they're also developed using our core values. So the company has their basic core values, and the SMART goals are developed with those values in mind. And then what I think is unique also is just that they're reviewed, formally reviewed between the manager and the employee on a quarterly basis throughout our fiscal year, so that they're not just set and then forgotten about. So that's a formal review, and they're flexible. They can be changed throughout the year. So if at the end of the first quarter, the employee says, whatever has changed. So they're gonna change either that goal or when that goal is completed. There's flexibility within the goals. And then at the end of the fiscal year, when we do more formal employee reviews and salary reviews, there's both an employee self-review and then the manager self-review based upon our core values of the company, so that those can be compared. And also our production employees, they do also have annual reviews, which not always happens within a manufacturing company. So I think that's kind of unique also within our SMART goals.
So are those part of the employees' metrics that they're reviewed at each one of their quarterly reviews or yearly reviews, year over year?
Yes, they are.
Oh, okay. So Marcia, do you want to touch a little bit on these quarterly communication meetings with your survey? I see you do
Sure.
this survey as part of that.
Yes, it's part of that. Yeah, so every quarter I have a quarterly communication meeting with the entire company. And I go over, business performance. I go over how each of because we're in a variety of markets, how each one of our markets are doing, why they may be seeing ups or downs in those markets. I talk about the customers. I usually do a product or customer highlight just to dig a little bit deeper into how our products are used. Sometimes we have videos from our customers, so I will show that again, just to help them understand, what they're making, how it gets used, and the value of it in the marketplace. They can ask questions, and then at the end of that, every time we have a survey, it's usually 5 or 6 questions, open-ended questions. There's a couple that are pretty, repetitive in terms of we want to keep getting their feedback on safety and any safety ideas and continuous improvement ideas. And then the other 3 can be various things. Sometimes it might be that we're having an event coming up. For example, we just had a quarterly communication meeting, and we're going to be doing, we want to do some sort of charity event for the holidays. And so we took a poll on what people want to do, just to get their feedback on what they would prefer to do. We've done some of the questions we've done before, like what's the best thing about working at Aurora? So we mix it up a little bit, and then Jerry takes all that information and she kind of categorizes it. I think she may have been talking about this a little bit when I joined, but she categorizes it into different buckets. Like if it's safety, then she'll send it over to the safety manager. Continuous improvement, we have a lean steering committee, so the committee will get that. And then we just go through every single comment, basically. Sometimes we go out and talk to the person if it's not clear on what they want, but just make sure that the comments get addressed one way or the other. So we do that every quarter. I think it helps, it helps to show that we're addressing their comments and that we're interested in their feedback.
Yeah, it makes everybody feel that they're being heard and their opinion is valued. I think that's excellent. Thank you very much. So, Krista, you talked about your culture ambassador, which, I was going to have you touch a little bit more on that. And then there's something in there about year-long leadership. You care to touch more on that and explain what that is about?
I think that's probably referring to a leadership development program that we have.
Right.
And so, yes, this is a year-long program that is designed by our training team. And we have cohorts of people go through it together. There's usually about 12 people in a cohort. And then they have it kind of broken up into quarter as to kind of what topics they're talking about. So they start with kind of understanding yourself and kind of some self-reflection, emotional intelligence type of things. And then they move
wonderful.
leading others, and then they move into leading more broadly. So it's a combination of, articles that they're reading, discussions that they're doing of how are we applying some of these concepts and thoughts, some assessments. We're partnering with a company called Mersion where they can do simulations of some of those tough conversations that you might have to have with an employee, so they get an opportunity to practice in a safe space. And then in the last quarter, they work on a project. So they identify a project within Flexco that could use some leadership and where they want to see change happen. And so they are faced with, putting together this project and then implementing it, and then reporting out on how that went. So.
Fantastic. Now, is that done at all levels of leadership, from frontline leadership all the way through to executive level, or?
We have two different levels of it. This baseline one is called Leading Others, and it's either prepping people for or kind of reinforcing some of those skills for people who are already kind of first line leaders. Anybody can be in it. So there's a nomination process for it, but it's at kind of all different levels. So it might be an individual contributor who wants to grow to be a manager someday, or somebody who's already leading a team and wants to continue to skill build. So that's our Leading Others. And then the next level program that we're putting together is called Leading Ahead. And that's designed at leaders of leaders, or people who are leading more globally and have more of a global reach in their position.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, so many times you always pick the best operator to be the supervisor or leader. They don't necessarily have those people skills. So that's fantastic. I love that approach.
Well, and what's been really interesting about it too is as these people go through the process, it's helped some people self-identify too, that it's like, I thought I wanted to be a manager because that's how you grow, and that's the career path I
that's
see.
the next level.
See what that means. I think I don't want to be a manager, and I'd rather continue on growing in more of a technical career path, which is great too. So it's helping people understand kind of what good leadership means, and they can decide am I up for that challenge or not? Because we all know that leading people is difficult. So
it's not always the best option for everyone. So
yeah.
Thank you, Krista. I really appreciate that. This is great insight.
Yeah.
So I guess we can go to the next one. Learning, which is probably the most important out of any of these 4 segments. Like I said, not every idea is a winner. But and I've told people that have worked for me, right, wrong, or indifferent, make a decision. If it's the wrong decision, we will know and we can make corrections and move forward from there. But we've learned something from it. So learning for culture, I mean, this is something that you want to incorporate into your onboarding, active listening. Marcia, you talked about it, where your employees feel that they're heard and their opinions are valued. And then not just employees, vendors, customers, obviously. But you're not just listening or waiting to speak. You're listening to understand and really digest what the other person is saying, and they make them feel like they're heard. So, Krista, you already touched on the company redo of your culture using your third-party resource, and then your new culture deployment. So I won't pick on you for this particular question. So Jerry and Marcia, this is touching on, what we don't measure, we can't improve. So on your feedbacks and suggestions from your employees, can you touch a little bit on what you do with those, how you, I see that you log those suggestions, and then they're sent out obviously to each department. Could you talk a little bit more to that?
Sure. So since we're actually just doing this, so for example, on the safety type items, we actually have a safety meeting each week as well, where we review different safety items, and that includes maintenance and really all different disciplines in that meeting. So if there's safety items that the employees have put down, and a lot of these are just kind of preventive measures, it's, that we want to take care of, kind of what you traditionally would call near misses or those types of things. So if it's something that an equipment may need to be revised, or we've had some cases where really just the employees couldn't see around a corner and we put some mirrors in. Some of them are very simple to address, some are more difficult, but we have an action plan with that. And as I said, we also make sure we go out and talk to the employee as well. I mean, obviously, if they see that we're doing the work, they know we address it, but it's good to talk with them. Another example, and sometimes some maintenance things come up. We do have a whole e-maintenance program where they can go and log any kind of issues, but sometimes it's just easier to write it on a piece of paper. So sometimes we get some items like that. For example, there was one where a scale wasn't working, and it needed to be replaced, and that came up on the meeting. So we're actually ordering them a new scale right now. So some of them are very simple things, but it kind of makes their job difficult, and they're wanting, it's something maybe they've been struggling with, but just haven't said anything. And we gave them the opportunity to say something, and they said it, and we address it. So I think all those things help. And I also, just your part about, learning from mistakes. I think at a broad, that's a different subject in some, in reality, because I think that's a very important thing. And I try to stress that here, that if you make a mistake, I'm not upset. If you don't tell me, I'm upset.
Yeah, exactly.
If you make a mistake, and you tell me, then let's work together. Because if I don't know what the problem is, I can't help. I can't support you. I can't help come up with solutions. So I try to encourage, look, if something goes wrong, tell me as soon as possible. You're not going to be in trouble, but we have, there's other resources to help, instead of you just trying to figure it out yourself, and we can come to a solution and have better resources. So I try to continuously stress that, and get a culture of trust where people feel comfortable doing that.
Right. I was going to say, that says a lot about your culture, that people can feel comfortable and safe saying, hey, I screwed up. This is what happened. I need some help fixing it. And aren't afraid to say that.
Right.
If they do it every week,
Yeah.
a problem. But
Right.
the fact that they feel comfortable saying, okay, this didn't go as I thought it would. I need help fixing it. Can you please help me? That's really the most important thing on that. So with your suggestions, when you do these programs and feedbacks and suggestions and enact these, do you track these in a log and you mark them complete and you track them in your system?
Yeah, we track
year
them.
after year
We track them individually, like within the different groups. So in the safety group, those ones are tracked in the safety log. In the continuous improvement log, those are tracked in a continuous improvement log, and we mark them off as complete. We don't have, like, unless Jerry does, because she just sends it to us every quarter, but I don't know that we have like one big log for all the years that we had everything.
right, but
we do it, more on a quarterly basis.
or within departments and stuff.
Right, and within departments where they can be addressed, right?
Yeah.
Jim, can I just insert, I know there was some chat about, kind of going back.
Yeah,
to
I see that.
the feedback surveys. And anybody you want to add anything else? Thank you, Krista, for your comments, and Ashley for sharing, kind of some best practices too. Anyone else have anything to add in there, or did you guys want to do a quick summary there?
I was gonna add something real quick. So because we do the feedback surveys so often, I think our response is probably about 50% of employees put something back on those each quarter. But I think that it's okay that it's 50% because they don't feel like they have to write something. So what they write is actually what they want to have improved, or what is a safety issue. It's not just words so that they can put it on a piece of paper and we require, them to return it. And so they might not return it one quarter, and then the next quarter there's something going on in their area, and that they know that if they haven't already brought it up, that they have the ability to bring it up during that meeting. And then I just also wanted to touch quickly on, just Jim had started off by saying, make a decision, right, wrong, or indifferent. And that goes back to what Marcia said, is you have to have a culture that allows the manager to make the decision and allows them to feel comfortable making a decision. Because you're often making decisions when you don't have all of the information. So inevitably there's going to be a decision that wasn't the exact right decision made. So that's very important to, allow the manager that ability to make those decisions and have a culture that supports that.
I believe that wholeheartedly. I ran my own business for 15 years, and trust me, I didn't make the right decision every single time I pulled the trigger on something. But you knew it pretty quick when you didn't make the right decision, and you adjust from there and move forward. So no, that's one of my strongest beliefs. I've had people work for me that will waffle back and forth and are scared to death, and it was the environment that we were in. They were scared to death to make a decision, and that cripples an organization. So I heard somebody start to jump in and talk a little bit. Please feel free to go ahead.
I was going to jump in because, Marcia, I kind of have the same philosophy as you. Like, if you screw up, that's okay. But like, we need to know about it. And we need to know about it early so that we can work together on a solution. That's kind of one of my mantras as well. But I think that what we can do to kind of create that culture where that's okay too, is that I think it's important for people all across the organization to admit, like, hey, we made the wrong call here. We hear you. We understand that that was the wrong call, and kind of own that. I think the more that we can model that, like, just because I'm in a leadership position doesn't mean that I make all the right moves. Yeah. I think the more that we can model that with our teams, the more likely they are to come to us when, they have an oopsie, and that we can fix it with them.
I think a common theme with all of these things is the follow-up and the follow through of the information and what's happening, because I think if they don't see that, if that's the missing piece, I think that's where the disengagement comes from, is that if they can't see that they're speaking up, or their opinions or their feedback went anywhere, then it's kind of like, why do it? So I think you guys are all right. And it was both for the speaking up for problems and also the surveys and everything. It's kind of that, what are we doing with all this information? Why is it important? And then they're more apt to be engaged with it and involved.
Yeah, it really goes a long way towards feeling that the employee is heard, their opinions are appreciated, and that there's something done with it. I mean, they see the follow-up, and it is absolutely crucial to keeping that employee engaged and making them feel like they're part of the organization. Ashley, I would love to hear your thoughts on this and what you've heard so far, and sort of your summary.
Just, I mean, overall, I was taking notes of just that when to chime in. I mean, this is, to me, these examples, even from what Sarah's sharing, the common thread between all of these examples is taking in the feedback from the team members. And then I was just revisiting the Adley approach. This is the epitome of the Adley approach. So in the examples, we learned from, for example, doing the safety logs, obtaining feedback on a consistent basis, or even some semi-annually, whatever the case is. It's repeatable, it's reliable, and then also based upon the feedback, you're continuing to refine things based upon if it's a certain department, if it's within the entire organization. So, I mean, these were awesome examples.
And that's why they're in the Spark Awards.
Yes.
And just so everybody knows, I mean, the Spark Awards are a fantastic thing to participate in. And, you know, do your self-assessment and fill everything out. And don't be intimidated at all if you decide to do the competition and go to the finals. I mean, yes, you know, if you get chosen, you'll go and you'll deal with judges like myself. But the comments we make and the notes we put down, obviously, if you're involved in it, you really care about your culture. And like I said before, chances are pretty good you got a great culture anyway, if you're that concerned about it. But also, you know, it's a diverse group of judges, so you'll get some nice feedback and maybe some ideas that can help out. Basically, it's continuous improvement. There we go, our mantra. So, all right, let's move on to integration. You guys have made this really easy because you're doing all my work for me. So if we talk about best practices on integration, this is the final leg of this Adley principles. And this is, you know, obviously leadership has to make sure this comes through. Like we talked about, the employees have to see that their suggestions mean something, they're being heard and they're being addressed. Employee involvement, the ideas, a lot of them come from the bottom up, sort of the servant leadership type approach where you're listening to employees and you're prioritizing, making it important. Krista, I know you talked about your leadership program and leading others. I'd like to take a spin on that a little bit and maybe talk about some of the things that when you started to implement the leading others program, some of the hurdles you ran into and had to overcome to fine tune the program and make it better. If you touch on that a little bit for us and sort of explain the process you went through to make that program what it is today, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, when we launched our first cohort, we treated it as a pilot, and we made sure that the participants of that group understood that they were in a pilot, and that part of being the inaugural group was that we were going to be asking them for more feedback about what's working and what's not. So we asked them for a lot of feedback along the way. You know, I think, and we were able to hear that feedback and then make changes for our future cohorts. We're in our 4th cohort right now. And so we've been able to each time kind of make some incremental changes to make it better. You know, sometimes it was an article that didn't resonate. Sometimes it was, you know, talking about different time zones and how are we getting together. And then, you know, sometimes it was just like, hey, this is great content, but what I really need is something else. So we made sure that it was viewed more as an iterative process. So each cohort has probably had a little bit different experience as we've continued to listen and grow and enhance the program. We take surveys kind of midway through the program and at the end of the program, both from the participants and from their managers to ask about, you know, are you seeing growth? Does this make you feel more equipped to be able to lead others? And those scores have steadily grown as well, which is rewarding. So trying to make it more of an iterative process, I think, has been a great thing for that program, rather than trying, you know, kind of back to like, just make a decision and do it, rather than trying to perfect it the first round. Like, let's put it out there and see what's working, what's not, and continue to improve.
So, Krista, when you do this, when you identify these potential leaders going into the program, whatever process you do that, whatever it's declared or whatever. Is there anything done up front, like a DDI assessment or something, to where you get a profile of that particular future leader's roadmap for how they learn best or anything like that? Do you do any profiling up front on a particular potential leader?
Not so much on learning style, but the process for getting into the program is, they have to do a self-nomination, and then the manager also, you know, does a right, hold on, let me close my door. Here's some people outside. I'm getting distracted. So we do a self-nomination where they talk about, you know, why I want to be in this program and what I hope to achieve from it, and maybe where I want to go in my career. The manager also does a write-up of what they've seen for that person, the type of leadership they've already seen, whether it's formal or informal, how they can continue to grow and develop. And then as we're putting together a cohort, we do look at some demographic data as far as, you know, do we have different functions represented? Do we have different locations represented? Do we have different genders represented? And those types of things, to make sure that we've got a good mix, so that as they do have some of those discussions and project work throughout the cohort, that they're getting diverse perspectives and hearing from other types of people that they might not normally work with.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Sure.
So, Jerry and Marcia, I know your core values integrated into your monthly committee meetings, part of your evaluation process, and you talked about how they're tied to the employees' performance based on their review. Can you cite examples, or can you elaborate on what kind of impacts you're seeing on that by looking at your metrics year over year? I know that's hard to tie culture to metrics and everything else, and it's a difficult thing to measure, but what have you seen as far as impacts on your business when it comes to your culture and how you prioritize that?
Jerry, you want to go, or you want me to go first?
Well, I just have one that I can think of relatively quick on health and safety being a core value. And in our ISO program, we have a management review of metrics every month, and have started to incorporate not just counting the any sort of accidents, but more, we still call them the near misses, but that number we want large, not that it's a near miss, but that they have pointed out something that is a safety issue. So that's a metric that we have been tracking and have been seeing that increase, the amount of time, the amount of safety things that they have reported from our meetings, and it goes to our core values, has increased each quarter and each year. So I think that directly relates to the values and the fact that we're asking and then tracking it.
So real quick, Jerry, what about like retention rates and employee referrals for new employees, and what type of retention rates you have on first time or new employees? Is that metric being tracked, or I would imagine?
It is. It's this 2023 was a much more difficult year for us, so we didn't have as many new hires, but in 2022, excuse me, 100% of our hires within our production were from employee referrals, which
Oh,
just
that's fantastic.
volumes about, you know, that the production operators, you know, felt that it was okay to refer their friends or family to work with us. You know, sometimes that's difficult. You don't hire every referral that you're given, but yeah, we do track that employee referral rate, and then the 1 year retention rate from year to year for our new employees, and how many of them stay for at least that 1 year.
So the fact that you've got 100% referrals from employees for new hires for the year alone speaks volumes to your culture, I would believe.
Yes, definitely it does.
Yeah.
It makes our obviously makes our hiring much more easy, at least within our production operators.
Yeah, especially in today's environment. That's one of the biggest challenges everybody's facing right now. So yeah, that says a lot.
Yeah.
So Sarah, I'll call you out quickly because I saw something on here that I found really interesting, and I think it says a lot. You create inclusion through resource offerings. I see that you really go overboard on financial wellness, health wellness, benefits from day one, biometric screenings, some of the other things. Could you touch a little bit on that and talk to that and how that's benefited your retention rates and your employee engagement?
Yeah, some of that was put out to make us more attractive in the hiring space, obviously the day one benefits, things like that. And then we built off of Employee Appreciation Day, and we took it, over the top, and we made it Employee Appreciation Week for a while, for a few years. And then last year we had split it up and we had done one event every week of the month of March. But anyway, part of that is we have an employee appreciation fair, and we invite our suppliers and vendors in. So our 401k advisor comes in, a financial planner, our benefits advisor, and the employees can just come hang out and talk with them more about their own goals. Are you saving for college? Is there a vacation you want to go on? Like, what are your financial aspirations? And what do we have in place that can help you get there? So they find that really beneficial to just have that one-on-one time with some of our advisors and support.
It's awesome. So,
Excellent.
yeah. Is anybody else doing benefit fairs like that in their organization? Any good successes? I know we would get invited to FONA would always have one, and they would invite us to come and share about the leadership classes that we offer, since they were a member, and things like that. And I thought that was such a nice one. They had a nice the Wheel of Fortune, and it was like this big, and then people could spin a wheel and then they get like a chance at a gift card, and every vendor that came brought a promise to bring like 2 gift cards that they could raffle as well. So it was a great way to defer some of the costs that it would cost you, the employer, to have it, and they could do whatever gift card they wanted, but it was just an easy way. I'm sure nobody balked at that, so just kind of fun.
That's a good idea.
Ashley, your final thoughts? Oh,
After
sorry.
that? Did I get through that whole question?
Yes.
you did.
You did.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate that. Thank you. I want to call on Ashley one more time to just sort of summarize what we've heard to this point and maybe give suggestions or comments overall on good, better, best, and maybe to track metrics and what to expect results wise, and just a quick summary.
Yeah, so again, I mean, great ideas. When I hear the focus of someone's well-being and health, mental and physical health, I mean, that is awesome. And the data shows that. So even if it's starting out something very simplistic and foundational, we know in today's world, there's so much going on around us, positive as well as some constructive things that we're directly and indirectly impacted on, to where that's already a level of stress. It causes burnout in the workplace, daily stress, daily burnout, daily worry. So focusing in on some of those could help individuals and your entire team potentially. So that's great to hear. When we talk about tracking, I love how I heard the tracking a new hire and even up to their first year. I think at around the 5.2 year mark within manufacturing, that tends to be when people leave. But I feel like I'm hearing it's much more common that let's try and have someone stay for a week or stay after lunch. So it's nice that that's being tracked. Something that I've heard recently in a few times now, people are not only tracking turnover, they're also tracking promotion rates, which I think is pretty unique. And you can also track the diversity of that too. And that makes me think about the candidate pools in which you're obtaining candidates from. So thinking of could be veterans, veteran spouses, returning citizens, whatever the case is. I mean, that's also another way to track cultural components in what you're going to be talking about later, Jim, of diversity and inclusion.
Thanks, Ash. So I mean, that pretty much gets us through the Adley portion of it. I'm going to touch briefly on the and from this point on, I think we're going to end up finishing up a little early, but the culture questions that we get into, these are going to expand. So when you answer, you get here the core values established and defined. That's going to open up some more subcomponents of that. Please make sure you go into there and dive a little deeper. Obviously, what you've heard today is, you know, some of the best practice of this. Kathy, you can flip to the next one. Yeah, communicate your mission, vision, and purpose right from this beginning. You got strategic values or goals agreed upon by the leadership team. That's going to open that up. SMART goals, annual goals, tied to individual performance, which we've heard basically on everybody's, you know, individual reviews and how that's tracked. And they're in line with the company's values. And your mission, vision, and purpose, that is going to open up a subset below that as well. So make sure you go through and complete these in full. DEI. Now, I would like to speak to this from my own individual perspective, being a cranky old white guy. We hired a director of DEI, and I thought, oh, here we go. So, but I've gotten Paula Velasquez, and Paula's worked for us for about a year now, right, Ash? I think roughly. And she is phenomenal. I'm one of her biggest advocates now because she takes an approach that everybody should be respected, everybody should be heard, and everybody should be valued. And they should take their different perspectives into consideration when they express the opinion. Like we've heard today, people want to be heard, they want to be understood, and they want to see that they're making a difference. So Paula has made me a very staunch advocate of DEI, which I never, somebody would have told me that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have believed him for a heartbeat, but now I get it. So again, these questions, when you click on certain portions of them, it's going to open up into more. Make sure you go through and address each and every one of these. And like I said, I wasn't the biggest advocate of it, but I am now. I'm an absolute diehard DEI promoter. I think it brings great value to a company. Everybody should be heard. You have to understand and realize that everybody's got a different perspective, different experiences, and they all bring value to the company. And you kind of laugh at me a little bit about this, but I grew up in a town of 500 people in Northwest Illinois. Some might refer to me as what some think of as redneck. So, but I had a different perspective than my colleagues who grew up in inner city Chicago or in the suburbs, or in different countries. And once you sit down and actually have a conversation with them, and they can have an opportunity to explain what their experiences have meant to them and how that led them to come up with their opinions and their values, and you can respect that and you treat it with respect, it's amazing how much more you can get out of those people and the perspectives they bring to the company itself. So just my own personal background on that, but that's, that's, I think, why I'm such a strong advocate for this. So last but not least, Ashley's here to answer questions. Ashley is one of those people that makes my job really easy because, I can talk to something, but I bring the smart people in like her to really address the questions and work with the companies. So if you've got any questions, Ashley's here to answer those for you and help out. So Ash, the floor is yours.
So if I love it, thank you. Always have to love seeing a picture of yourself. I personally think that, we have experts on this call. So, and we've had some bits and pieces of healthy conversation, Jim, that you generated. I think that to me, it's definitely worth an open conversation with all of you. All of you seem like you're at different stages, different nuggets that we can all take. So I say that we open it up to everyone to have that conversation.
I just had a question for Krista. Your leadership cohorts, was that a homegrown program then?
It was we have a training department and they put that together. So it
Okay.
was homegrown. Mhm.
Great. And so they kind of lead it and facilitate it and pick the who picks the articles, the group or the
The
different
training team
subjects?
had put it together and then they, here's some recommended reading from Harvard Business Review or
Yeah.
whatever sources they're getting them from. So the
Yeah.
training team chooses kind of the content and then there's discussion that builds off of that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
And speaking to that, I've attached some links to some articles on cultural best practices and what good looks like, but some great articles from SHRM and a few others, I believe, on the very tail end of this presentation. So when Kathy sends out the presentation, you can click on those links and it'll take you to those articles.
I think the biggest thing, Jim, that I can think of is, to me, what I heard is already excellent. So sometimes when we're already doing a phenomenal job, we might just want to coast with that greatness. So knowing that we're doing extremely well in all these areas, how do we continue to challenge ourselves as leaders? How do we continue to challenge ourselves as, or how do we continue to challenge our entire team? And what does that mean? What other categories do we look at within Spark, within your own organization? And I think that that's a hard thing to really ponder as a leadership team and as a collective team as well.
Agreed. All right, Kathy, with that, we'll throw it back to you. You can
Excellent.
close it out.
Yeah, well, we're excited that you guys were able to participate, and thank you so much, for all the everyone who's contributed today. We really are learning from some award-winning companies, as we know, and also just our friends and neighbors too, and our fellow members of the VAA. So we're excited to put on these programs. We're super grateful for IMEC, for Ashley and Jim for leading us through these discussions, and we'll have these available for review later, and then I'll send out the slides as well. I added a couple in, and then anyway got distracted. So I'll send out the slides. Easily distracted, but anyway, thanks again, everyone. So the next session is coming up. Shoot, no, I don't have it. I know we've got safety and social responsibility in December, and then we have operations in January. So look at the VA calendar for more information on that. And again, if I could just encourage y'all to go into that new tool, new.vaaspark.org. Go ahead in. If you don't know your login, just shoot me a quick note and I will send it right to you. But you can just go in and hit, it's your first initial and then last name, and then just hit forgot my password if you're not sure what it is. And then you can regenerate that. But it's such a nice tool, and we would really love to have a great participation this year. We're excited about the Spark season is here. It is time. Like we're ready.
Yeah.
We're getting geared up. So it's gonna the whole dog and pony show we're ready. So but anyway,
So Kathy, I gotta say,
you go ahead.
what? Oh,
A little left field, but is the student portion happening this year too?
Oh yeah, for
Wow.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Dawn is for those of you who weren't sure or didn't know this, but for the first time last year, we did 2 new awards, one for the Manufacturing Educator of the Year and Manufacturing Student of the Year. And I think that Dawn said she's launched it on the GCamp website. So go visit the gcamp.org website for more information about that. She's done a lot of great updates to the site recently too. So check it out. And yeah, nominate somebody, nominate a student, nominate an educator. It was such a feel good, what a great opportunity to recognize some really talented people. And sometimes, you know, especially the manufacturing students of the year, they don't always get if they don't go right into a college route, they don't always get the accolades that those college kids get when they're signing, you know, and accepting their new you know, next steps. And so it's just important to, I think, acknowledge that. So very excited about that. So thanks for bringing it up, Sarah. All right, I'm going to stop recording.